had a fire debate on whether or not Jesus claimed to be God, and I happened to be there in attendance. And let me tell you, it was very entertaining. I enjoyed it. I think that David came out on top ultimately, but both sides argued interesting points. Now, Alex O'Connor, he came from an angle when it came to whether or not Jesus pre-existed, and he used an argument that surprised me.
Dave has already talked about the angel of Yahweh. And there is the suggestion that the angel of Yahweh is Jesus. That doesn't seem to make much sense to me. For a start, if you turn to Hebrews chapter 1, the very first verse says, "In the past, God spoke to our ancestors through the prophets at many times and in various ways. But in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son." In these last days. If Jesus is the angel of the Lord, way back in Exodus, the story of the Exodus, why is it that Hebrews says he's only spoken to us through the Son in the last few days?
Now, there are a number of reasons why this caught me off guard. One is because the title of the debate is, "Did Jesus claim to be God?" And so you don't have Jesus directly speaking in Hebrews. And so I was surprised that Alex went to Hebrews, let alone Hebrews chapter 1, to argue that Jesus did not pre-exist. So I, immediately recognized this, and like Hebrews chapter 1 is one of my favorite chapters. It's really the last place you want to go to try to prove that Jesus is not God.
It's actually my favorite chapter, right? As you all know, I've recently done a full commentary on Hebrews 1 and the video where Fat Sam is Thanos with an arrow through his brain. I've talked about it many times. I have whole videos on it. It's like the most anti-Trinitarian chapter in the Bible, right? Every verse destroys the Trinity, and he confuses everything. He gets it all wrong. We're going to go through the whole chapter again just for this guy, right? Who apparently has never seen any of my videos on this subject, or if he has no idea what he's talking about. That's my number one go-to, pal, and you guys are screwed.
Or that he did not pre-exist his human birth. Hebrews, the book of Hebrews, period, is the last place you want to go. And here's why.
We got
boy,
a question
sorry,
from
everyone.
Avery. All right.
Oh, you hold the mic? Okay. All right, for sure. What's going on, guys? So this is a question for Alex, man. How you doing, man?
Hey,
you mentioned,
God logic.
Yes, yes, sir. You mentioned in Hebrews 1 where, God is speaking, or God spoke to our, through prophets. Now he speaks to us through his Son, and you're saying, where was Jesus then? Back then he should have been active. And so, regarding Hebrews, I just want to read you this and get your thoughts on this. Okay, it's Hebrews 11. Regarding Moses, it says, by faith, Moses.
Okay, listen carefully here, okay? Because this is where he collapses.
And now I'm going to just skip down to 25 and 26 for time. Choosing rather to be mistreated with the people of God than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin, he considered the reproach of Christ greater wealth than the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking to the reward. So how is it?
Okay, so he quoted Hebrews 11:26. Talk about the text in a minute. Listen to how he interprets this.
That Moses can be considering Christ's disapproval if...
Did you hear that? He said, how is it that Moses can be considering Christ's disapproval? That's not what Hebrews 11:26 says. Not even close.
Christ wasn't around for him to disapprove.
Yeah, that is a great question.
So the audience is like, ooh, and even Alex, it's a great question. No, it's not. It's like probably one. No, I don't expect. I'm not saying Alex should have known this. He's not like God Logic or these others who actually believe and follow the Bible regularly, religiously. Yeah, he obviously, as an atheist who debates the Bible, has knowledge, but I don't know that he has the kind of broad knowledge that he would be able to deal with an unfamiliar verse like Hebrews 11:26 the way God Logic misrepresented it. Okay? That's really what happened here. Was Alex was abused by God logic's bad logic, right? Alex is not like a Greek scholar or someone who can just pull up the Greek and say, well, wait a minute, what does this say? Really, it's God logic's responsibility here to accurately present the teaching of Hebrews 11:26, what it actually says, you know what I'm saying? Not to quote it and then reword it totally differently, which is exactly what he did. And I think that caught Alex off guard. It was God logic's lie, right? Listen to it again. Listen to the way God logic either lies or gets so confused by his false doctrine, it might as well have been a lie because the effect is the same. Everyone's confused, right? Oh, man. Listen carefully. He does. It's bad.
Been active. And so, Alex, man, how you doing, man?
Hey,
you mentioned
God logic.
Yes, yes, sir. You mentioned in Hebrews 1 where, God is speaking, or God spoke to our, through prophets. Now he speaks to us through his son. And you're saying, where was Jesus then? Back then he should have been active. And so,
okay, so he's very clearly about to use a text to show where Jesus pre-existed, Hebrews 1, and was active, right? So listen to what he does. Listen to how he does that.
regarding Hebrews, I just want to read you this and get your thoughts on this, okay? It's Hebrews 11. Regarding Moses, it says, by faith, Moses, and I'm going to just skip down to 25 and 26 for time, choosing rather to be mistreated with the people of God than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin, he considered the reproach of Christ greater wealth than the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking to the reward. So,
okay, right here, he's going to totally change what he just read. Now, the version he just read wasn't like the best, but there should be, again, there is no excuse given all the, you literally can type in one web address and have 20 Bible translations show you the verse. This is not acceptable. Listen to how he explains this verse. I'm telling you, when you see what I show you and how what he says is not possible, I think it'll blow your mind. Listen.
So how is it that Moses can be considering Christ's disapproval if...
How is it that Moses can be considering Christ's disapproval? It's real simple, God logic. He's not. Where are you getting this from? Where are you getting from Hebrews 11:26? Moses is thinking about Jesus disapproving him. It's literally the opposite of that, right? Yeah, as I'm going to show you in a second, it says that Moses valued that disapproval, God logic, more than the wealth of Egypt's treasures. He wanted that disapproval. You know why? It's not disapproval. You have it all wrong. How you blew it this badly, I don't know. But you did. And this is wild, man, because I'm going to show you you've got it all wrong.
If Christ wasn't around for him to disapprove?
Yeah, that is a great question. So Christ...
For him to disapprove. So God logic is claiming, Hebrews 11:26 is saying, Moses was what? Trying to avoid Christ disapproving him? And so therefore, because Moses was thinking about Christ disapproving him, he had to be around during Moses' time, right? Wrong. Because that's not what it's saying. Not even close. Not even like anywhere near that. You understand? Watch.
He regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as greater value than the treasures of Egypt because he was looking ahead to his...
Okay, now right there, now the disgrace for the sake of Christ, that's not a correct translation, but that still could have told Alex that God logic was wrong, right? Because the version Alex is looking at right now says he regarded disgrace for the sake of the Christ, which would then potentially make it either a present or future thing, right? Because Moses talks about the prophet that will come after him and that Yahweh's going to put his words in his mouth in Deuteronomy 18:18. And obviously, Moses is aware of all the promises made through Abraham. We'll get to that more in a moment. But this for the sake of the Christ, that's not what the Greek text says. And really not what it could mean. And I guess it's possible, but it doesn't make any sense as I'm going to show you. Nevertheless, it doesn't say that Moses was thinking of Jesus' disapproval. Even the version Alex just read said he regarded disgrace for the sake of the Christ. In other words, being humiliated for Jesus' sake as God's chosen one, right? As the one God chose to go and do all those miracles and free his people. He considered that more valuable than all the treasures of Egypt. But it's not even for the sake of the Christ that the Greek is likely saying. Either way, that still wouldn't be proof that Jesus is existing during Moses' time to disapprove him. Our logic was trying to say, how could Moses be thinking of Jesus' disapproval if he wasn't active at that time? In other words, Jesus has to be alive during Moses' time to disapprove of him, right? That's not what it's talking about. It's talking about Moses being disapproved by the Egyptians. He considered the disgrace that comes with being an anointed one, or that comes with being the Christ that he's prefiguring. We know that is true. I'm going to show you that in the Greek. Let's let Alex finish.
Reward. Now, that's something which I think, I think it's a good point. I mean, of course, I can...
It's not a good point. Because Moses is not thinking about Jesus' disapproval like God logic said. It says, as you're going to see, that he's regarding that disgrace, that insult of the Christ as greater value than all the treasures of Egypt. Well, which one do you think he wants then, God logic? Do you think he wants the disgrace of the Christ? Or do you think he wants all the treasures of Egypt? He wants the disgrace of the Christ, right? So what the hell are you talking about, dude? Why are you talking about him thinking about Jesus disgracing him? That's not what he's talking about. Listen.
I can offer a Christological interpretation of this, which sort of says that Christ is promised as the Redeemer of mankind, and we're looking at this in retro... Where's he gone? Oh, there you are. And we're looking and just dropped it and left. And I suppose we're looking at this in retrospect, and he regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ. Yeah, I do think that in this instance, Hebrews is probably presenting Jesus as... I don't know about the Angel of Yahweh, but certainly we're looking at a high Christology in Hebrews, yeah.
So close.
We're not even talking about Jesus in Hebrews 11:26. Nope. It's talking about Moses. It's talking about Moses as the Christ or anointed one. Just like in other texts I'm going to show you. It uses that term and description. There's no other way to interpret it as I'm going to show you. But as you can see, because God logic distorted what it says, right? Literally lied, said that Moses was thinking about the disgrace of Jesus disgracing him, basically. He was thinking about Jesus being upset with him, right? No, that's not what it's talking about at all. Who would want that, right? But because God logic did that, because he reinterpreted it wrongly, it confused Alex. Now, Alex is looking at a translation that says he considered the disgrace for the sake of the Christ as being worth more. That's not really what the Greek says, and even if it did, though, that wouldn't prove what God logic is saying, because it could be for the sake of the Christ in reference to his future reward that he knew the Christ would provide after Yahweh sends him and speaks words in his name. A prophet foretold. Either way, it could also be for the sake of being the anointed one, of being the one that was used, that was disgraced by the Egyptians, even though it was worth more than all the treasures of Egypt. I'm going to show you that in the Greek. Listen, Alex.
But, yeah.
See, they're all pumped up. They think somehow this text, Hebrews 11:26, and God logic's misuse of it, because Alex doesn't see that's not what it's talking about. He's just something in the way God logic presented it. And for whatever reason, he's not seeing that disgrace for the sake of the Christ isn't what God logic quoted. There is a difference there too. It's not quite the same as what the Greek difference is, as I'll show you. The fact is, look at how pumped up these guys are. They think they got Alex. No, you just embarrassed yourselves more.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
All right, let's go to the next question, because we only got a few. He's so close, guys.
Does anyone see what God logic? Well, I see what God logic is saying, right? He's not saying anything worth anything because it's stupid. Listen.
But I have no, for what it's worth, I have no problem saying that Hebrews has a high Christology. That's kind of not an issue to me. But I think it is interesting to suggest that as a retort to the idea of the angel of Yahweh being Jesus, I think that is an excellent point. Yeah.
Great job, Avery. All right.
It's not an excellent point, because even though I believe Jesus is the angel of Yahweh, right, or one of them, that has nothing to do with it. I'll show you.
You see why? You do not want to go to Hebrews if you're trying to argue against the pre-existent, pre-incarnate Christ.
No, we don't see why. And you're going to see why. Hebrews 1 is where I go first. And you haven't gone at all in terms of actually dealing with what it says. I'm going to show you.
Which, thankfully, Alex was intellectually honest enough to concede and say, you know what, this does seem to show that Jesus did pre-exist, and it, is a good retort against my argument that Jesus.
No, it isn't. You lied. You distorted the text. Now, I think he should have been able to see that you were, but I would have immediately just destroyed you and showed you that you don't know what you're talking about, like I'm going to do right now. But he doesn't have that capacity. It either is something he kind of knows on the surface level, or arguments he's maybe heard in the Greek or Hebrew. But for whatever reason, he didn't see that the difference in the translation you quoted and what he was reading is significant. But it's even more significant than that, as I'm going to show you.
Jesus is not the angel of the Lord. This is a good retort here. We got a concession out of Alex O'Connor with just one passage in Hebrews. That's Hebrews chapter 11.
He's an atheist who doesn't know Greek, Hebrew, or Aramaic, and doesn't have anywhere near the kind of sophisticated knowledge that non-Trinitarians like I, or Trinitarians like you, should have. So I don't know what kind of victory you're celebrating here. You literally misquoted Hebrews 11:26, and all he did was concede that it might support what you're saying because he hadn't heard it before. It doesn't support at all what you're saying. And you didn't answer his real question. Let's let him play a little more before I show that more clearly.
We're going to talk about Hebrews 1. Hebrews chapter, I went to...
Oh, we're going to talk about it. So you better be listening, pal.
Hebrews chapter 11. And that showed it. There's so many
Yeah, or Hebrews chapter 2, that he was made lower than the angels, lower than the gods, or Hebrews chapter 5, that the days of his flesh are over. Right. All kinds of stuff in Hebrews that disproves your view.
Many gems in the book of Hebrews that shows how Christ pre-existed, that I just couldn't imagine being a Unitarian or being someone who goes against the deity of Christ or his claims.
You don't even believe the deity of Christ, my friend. A deity is a God, and you don't believe Jesus is a God or God. You believe he's a person of God. That's not what deity means, so you're misusing language, you're equivocating, and you don't even realize it. So if you believe Jesus is a deity or the deity of Jesus, you believe he's an actual separate God like we do. Congratulations. If you believe he's a person of the deity, then that's what you should say and stop lying, okay? Because that is what you believe. You believe in one God, the Trinity. 3 persons share the same nature eternally. You don't believe in the deity of Jesus. A deity is a God. Look it up. You believe by deity, he has the nature of the triune God. So why don't you just say that and stop confusing people, including yourself? Hebrews, huh? And this is going to be incredible. Well, listen to what this guy says.
Of being God, being Yahweh.
Being God, what do you mean? Okay, so God to you is several things, right? God is a Trinity, God is the divine nature, and God is a person of God. None of those things are what the Bible's talking about. Right? No. Even like when Kelly tries to use Genesis, where it says he made man, female, made man, male and female. Yeah, man is used there for the nature of humankind. So if you want to use God in that way, which it doesn't, but if it does, then you're saying Jesus is God kind? Because the analogy would be then that he's a separate spirit, like Adam and Eve are separate human beings, was born from spirit to spirit, was born from flesh as flesh. That's what Jesus taught. That's what that means. It doesn't mean that they're sharing the same nature, Kelly. You're misusing those texts in Genesis. Jake told you that. Yeah, I think he was confused. You were even trying to argue that. Man either means an individual human being or the nature that human beings share. Not share conjoined as one being, but share just like God made them, us, male, female, separate humans in his image, separate spirits. What are you not understanding? Okay, so when he says Jesus is God, he means the only thing he can mean, he's a person of the eternal triune God. There is no Jesus is God without explaining that, because there's no text that teaches that. But when they say just Jesus is God, all they have to do is show you a text where the word God is used. And all of a sudden they feel like they've shown you what they believe. No, you just disproved your doctrine, because God there doesn't mean what you say it means. Doesn't mean Trinity. It doesn't mean an impersonal divine nature that is shared by more than one person. And it doesn't mean a person of God. All the things you guys mean. So what are you going to show us? That the Bible proves Jesus is a person of God, right? Because if you don't show us that, you're disproving your doctrine. Understand? Doubt it.
I couldn't imagine. I would wish that Hebrews didn't exist. I would wish that the book of Hebrews was not in the Bible so that I can hold my point. I would not go here.
That's because you're stupid and you don't understand barely anything. For even you to talk like that just shows you're bloviating. Okay, get to the points. We don't need to hear what you can't believe or do believe. You haven't proven one thing except how stupid you are, and I'm going to prove that even more clearly to everybody.
So we got a concession from Alex, which is beautiful. It's amazing.
You got a concession from someone who didn't understand your question, that you distorted as you presented it, that he had never heard before, that doesn't teach what you're saying. And he even followed up with you like you showed to show he doesn't agree with what you're saying. And I'm going to show it doesn't teach what you're saying, and you're a liar.
And we see here, and for those of you guys who didn't understand the point, we have Moses back in.
Listen carefully, okay? You need to hear this, because this guy is a liar. You're not supposed to feel sorry for liars. People who get up here in public, ask stupid-ass questions because they want notoriety when they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And then they follow it up with a video that he's doubling down. This guy, unbelievable. If I need to see, has anyone called this guy out on this? This misuse of Hebrews 11:26? Sam, this is bad. Listen to this guy. Listen how he explains it.
The times of Egypt. The Bible says that he did not consider the pleasures of Egypt and the riches of Egypt to be anything. In fact, he rather suffered with the people of God during the Exodus because he feared the reproach of Christ.
Nope, doesn't say that. You just lied again. So we've got him saying, Moses regarded the disgrace of the Christ. I think it was his first one. Now he's saying Moses feared the reproach of the Christ, right? Just like I've been telling you. He thinks, everybody, I'm telling you, this is big. He blows it again after this with the word for Lord, but just focus with me, okay? He just said, I'll play it again. He just said again, Hebrews 11:26 says, Moses regarded, he feared what the Lord was going to do to him more than the treasures of Egypt. Listen, paraphrase, but that's basically what he said. Listen.
Beautiful. It's amazing. And we see here, and for those of you guys who didn't understand the point.
Right? So he's like thought about this. The debate happened before. He's had time to think about it. No one obviously told him. And no one at the debate knew, right? It's like a total disgrace. We give Alex a pass, though, because he's not a full-blown Bible believer scholar. So it's these guys. None of these guys told him, hey, you're really blowing it with Hebrews 11:26. What you just said, it doesn't say that. Listen again.
We have Moses back in the times of Egypt. The Bible says that he did not consider the pleasures of Egypt and the riches of Egypt to be anything. In fact, he rather suffered with the people of God during the Exodus because he feared the reproach of Christ. Now,
he feared the reproach of Christ.
You guys saw it. This means that Christ pre-existed and it was in the presence of Moses. Moses was aware of Christ, was in his presence and feared him, had a respect and a reverence for Christ before we get Christ being born of a human.
Isn't that unbelievable, right? This guy's gone, right? First of all, it doesn't say fear. And if you read Hebrews like you claim to have, right? Try reading Hebrews 5:7, right? Ulabia is what you want. Godly fear. That's not what's in Hebrews 11:26. Listen to him before I show you the just devastating proof.
Who was that? That's the angel of the Lord.
Okay, so you want to say it was the angel of the Lord, so Jesus was the angel of the Lord. Well, Alex's point is that Hebrews 1, it didn't really come out clearly in the back and forth there, but the general objection, God logic, is Hebrews 1 says, to which of the angels did God ever say, you are my son, today I've become your father, quoting Psalm 2. Well, the obvious answer that even Trinitarians know is none of them. That's his whole point in setting up the contrast, dude, between Jesus and angels, is that he didn't say this to them. He said it to this one, to the Son. How do you explain that? If Jesus is the angel of the Lord, and he's never stopped being the angel of the Lord, he just took on another nature while he stayed the angel of the Lord. Okay, so if Hebrews 1 says, to which of the angels, then the answer has to be what, God logic? The angel of the Lord, right? Only that's not the answer, because the author of Hebrews 1 literally references angels of the Old Testament as flames of fire, the most prominent one of whom is the angel of the Lord, right? Exodus 3, Judges, it's all over the place, right? He's appearing as a flame of fire. You're saying that Hebrews 1, referring to all of his angels, doesn't include the angel of the Lord as a flame of fire from the Old Testament? Okay, well, if it does, And if Jesus is the angel of the Lord, why does Hebrews 1 say, to which of the angels did he say this? Why doesn't he just say that he said it to the angel of the Lord from the Old Testament? He doesn't. He makes it very clear. He didn't say it to any angel. Not any of those angels who appeared as flames of, not any of God's angels, his angels. Hebrews 1, 7, 11. And before that, it refers to them in quotes from Psalm 97, 7, where the angels as gods bow down to God, but it's applied to God's firstborn in Hebrews 1, 6. It's talking about all the angels, his angels, but it's applying these texts to him as a man, you dumbass. That's what I keep telling you guys. That's why you guys are stupid. That's why you don't read Hebrews 2. It says he became lower than the angels. Hence, when God said, you are my son, today I become your father at his resurrection, wasn't saying it to an angel. Exactly. But for you guys, he would have to be even then, because Jesus never died as the angel of the Lord. He only died as a man. So you guys are screwed, dude. You're just too stupid to realize it. And that's why you didn't actually answer the issue or the question, whether answer Alex presented there or not. Everybody knows that's the question. You say Jesus is the angel of the Lord. Hebrews 1 says God didn't say these words to any angel, specifically referring to the angels of the Old Testament as flames of fire, including the angel of the Lord. How do you answer, dude? How is Jesus the angel of the Lord who appears in a flame of fire all throughout the Old Testament? How is it that God never said those words to that angel if he is that angel? You want some help? I already gave it to you. He's not that angel. He's lower than those angels when God says those words to him, but because you guys are stupid and you follow pagans who don't understand, he gave up being a spirit, gave up being the angel of the Lord, flame of fire. That's what kanao means in Philippians 2. It's another verb you guys don't ever explain, and you lie about it too. Doesn't mean limited. It means gone, like you. You guys are stupid. Okay, you can't answer these questions. We can, because we're not stupid. And we actually read and follow the Bible like you don't. If you do, God logic, explain to us. Jesus never stopped being the second other person of the Trinity, right? Never. Just took on another nature and limited himself. Okay, so he's still that second person of the Trinity, angel of the Lord. Then why does Hebrews 1 say, to which of the angels did he ever say these words? With the understood answer being none of them. And if you think the answer is one of them, I'd like to know that as well. Let's find out just how dumb you are.
Messenger of Yahweh. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, angel in the Hebrew is just malach. It just means messenger. So it doesn't tell you what type of being that messenger is. It could be a spirit creature, like a regular angel that we know of, or a human messenger, right? Or it could be the second person of the Trinity.
No, the first two categories you presented are actually in the Bible. Psalm 104, Hebrews 1, Malachi 3, Isaiah 9, a child is born, angel of great count. The only use of angel is for a created being. That's why Psalm 104 and Hebrews 1 teach that. What is it you're not understanding? He makes his angels spirits, flames of fire. Angel of the Lord is a spirit, flame of fire. God makes him, it's over. Right, poieo, that's a created term, it's over. Angels are created beings, pal. There's no such thing as an uncreated angel. The angel of the Lord doesn't even know all things. Do you know that? Have you read Zechariah chapter 1? Well, why is the angel of the Lord praying to Yahweh to get information it doesn't have? And then gets that new information, tells it to Zechariah, and then another angel of the Lord comes and tells that angel of the Lord information he doesn't have. Yeah, because you guys are stupid, that's why. And you say a lot of dumb things.
The Son of God, right? Who we know is the messenger of Yahweh, or the angel of the Lord.
Right, he's a created spirit. What's born from spirit is spirit. He's not an eternal spirit. He's not an eternal angel. God's not an angel. He makes his angels spirits. Right, and what's born from spirit is spirit. Like what's born from flesh is flesh. That's what Jesus teaches in John 3. Have you ever read it? Exactly. There's no eternal birth. There's no eternal generation. Birth is generation. It is temporal by definition. You guys just suffer from retardation. So there is no uncreated angel. There is no uncreated son. There is no Trinity, no person of the Trinity. That's all added by you to interpret what the Bible does teach, because you can't do it without all that added bullshit.
And so this particular person reveals himself to be divine. Now, guys, he quoted Hebrews 1. We could have stayed in Hebrews 1. I just, wanted to, I just couldn't believe it. Hebrews 11, good. Hebrews 1.
All right, we're going to go to Hebrews 1 in just a minute and annihilate this moron. But let's go ahead and show how dumb he is on Hebrews 11:26, okay? The guy literally deceived everybody, right? We need to find out. We need to do a search. I could even do it now, but I don't want to get caught up in like a seeing which video actually deals with it. We need to find out. Okay, this debate with Alex O'Connor and God Logic's retarded question to him happened a few weeks ago. Has any Trinitarian pointed this out to this guy? None. If no one has told him this, if no one came to God Logic and said, hey, you're stupid, right? You better apologize to Alex O'Connor before Greg Stafford finds out what you said, right? Sam, are you warning these guys? What's going on here, man? All right, let's talk about God Logic's retardation. Okay, so let's just look at the straight text in Greek first, right? So, New International, he is talking about Moses. Moses regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ. That's basically what Alex was reading. Okay, and that should have told him right there. It's not talking about disgrace from Jesus to Moses. It's talking about Moses being disgraced. Maybe that's just, that's not the best reading, but it's possible. For the sake of the Christ, right? In other words, he's suffering. He considered that what he was going through, disgrace, for the sake of Jesus, or for the sake of being anointed. And it could be either one, as I'm going to show you. But it wouldn't matter. It's not going to support God Logic. Greater than the value of the treasures of Egypt. That's not what God Logic quoted, okay? And that's not even really what it means, but that's different from what God Logic quoted and what he explained. Disgrace for the sake of Christ does not indicate Jesus is right there and Moses is afraid of him, like God Logic said, right? No. Let's look at what other texts say. We'll skip Sam's favorite Bible for now. Excuse me. This is kind of like what God Logic was quoting, I think. He considered the reproach of Christ. Okay, that's not really, that doesn't convey things accurately, as I'm going to show you. He valued disgrace for Christ. That's closer, kind of like the NIV, like the one Alex read. Still not totally accurate, though, I don't think. New American Standard, reproach of Christ. King James, reproach of Christ. He considered the reproach because of the Messiah. Again, they're better than reproach of the Christ, as I'm going to show you, for the sake of and because, I think, capture the meaning better, but it's still not correct. He thought that being insulted for the sake of the Messiah. That's closer. It's still not entirely correct, I believe. He regarded abuse suffered for Christ. Closer, but not correct. This is more like what God Logic was thinking, the Aramaic Bible in English. I'm talking about the Greek there, though. Reproach of the Christ, these versions are all saying here. So, okay. This is the best one so far. Although, well, no, it's similar to the other ones that are in the middle, but it's more expressive. He deemed the reproaches which he might meet with in the service of Christ to be greater than the treasures of years. That's closer. It's talking about what Moses valued enduring for the sake of Jesus, or for the sake of being the anointed one, the chosen one to do this, as greater than all the treasures of Egypt. That's what it's talking about. He esteemed, he valued the reproaches he's getting while doing this. He's not talking about Jesus reproaching him, you dumbass. It's unbelievable, man. It's okay, let's get to the Greek now. Right, so I'll just show you real quickly what we'll do on the analytical. Right, Maizana, Pluton, Hegesamenas ton Aegyptu, Thesauron, ton Onerisman tu Christu. Now, here we have, it's like in Philippians 2, same verb, we have hegeomai, regard, like when it says in Philippians 2, he didn't consider, or he regarded equality with God. He considered equality with God. Same verb. It's not the exact same construction, but it's similar. He regards that as greater. He regards that as something better, superior. What is that? Well, let's look at it. The best way is in the parallel and a linear, but I want to do that first. It gets a little tricky, so I want to make sure, at least I tried to explain it in a way that was clear to you. What the main verb is, right? Why it's in the accusative, not the nominative, right? Because we're dealing with an object. With a verb like hegeomai, it's like thinking, regarding, considering. You're considering what, right? There's an object there, not a subject in the nominative, if that helps you understand it better. And so the predicate would also be in the accusative. The predicate in this case, he's regarding something as greater than something else. So the predicate is what's described as greater, right? It's the description. This is better. This is better than that. He regards the reproach of the Christ. It's also, as you can see, in the accusative. So it's actually the direct object of hegeomai, because it's what he's actually considering. Like I said earlier, when I said that's what he thinks is greater. He considers this as greater. Right, so it's a comparative situation. It's not necessarily like Philippians 2 with a predicate and an object in the same way. But it is the same verb with two accusatives. But in this case, it has a comparative element with maison, in the accusative maisona. So, or it's a form of megas, but the form in John 14:28 is maison that I referenced earlier. So, he's regarding the reproach or the insult of the Christ as greater, better than the wealth of Egypt. Comparatively, Moses wants the insult of the Christ, not the wealth of Egypt. According to God logic, Moses is afraid of what Jesus is going to do to him more than the treasures of Egypt. No, that's not what it's talking about at all. Look, the reproach. That's not, the word for godly fear in Hebrews is ulabea, Hebrews 5:7. Look, this word is reproach, insult, disgrace, reviling. So God logic is telling us Moses is afraid that Jesus is going to do this to him, right? Yeah, he is, dude. He's stupid. He thinks Moses is afraid right then and there of the living Christ insulting him. Yeah, that's not what it's talking about. It's that wouldn't be what you want, you stupid idiot. The text is saying he considers that, he regards that as more valuable than all the treasures of Egypt. He wants it. He's not trying to avoid it because he's afraid. Well, that is so stupid and shows this guy he shouldn't be interpreting the Bible. Sam, are you the only one that taught this guy? I mean, I'm seeing some, and this isn't the worst yet. He does something even as bad with Lord in a minute. I'm going to show you. It's talking about him enduring insults and disgrace and valuing that more than all the wealth of Egypt's treasures. It has nothing to do explicitly. And maybe there's a possibility, right? I mean, I believe Jesus was alive, so it's not like, a problem for me. But that's not what it's saying. It's saying Moses thinks the disgrace of the Christ or anointed one is better, greater. He wants it more than all the wealth of Egypt's treasures. So why would he want Jesus to insult him, dumb? He wouldn't. He wants to have people insult him because he's the anointed one. That's what it says. Look. And so it's so simple, actually. All right. So greater, he regarded, right? You got to be careful here because, again, these are two accusatives that go with hegemai. But he's regarding as greater this down here. This probably should have been white because it's a little confusing, the other one. He's regarding the insult of the Christ as greater than the wealth of the Egyptians' treasures, Egypt's treasures. So what are you talking about? He's afraid of Christ. And so he's alive right now because he's fearing him. That's not what it says. It says he regards the insult or reproach of the Christ as better, more valuable. He wants it more than all of Egypt's treasures. Well, why would that be? God logic. It's not because he's fearing Jesus. It's because he wants to be insulted. He wants to endure what being the Christ is rather than enjoy the treasures of Egypt. This word, the Christ here, God logic's just looking at that. He thinks because it says Christ, that's got to be Jesus. No, it couldn't possibly be Jesus. Not only is Christ used of people other than Jesus, like David in Psalm 2, and others, as we're going to see in 1 Samuel in a moment, it says right here, he esteems that, right? He regards the insult of the Christ as more valuable, as greater than the treasures of Egypt. So why would he regard the insult of the Messiah as greater? That is so stupid, dude. It's talking about how he sees it. He sees the insult of the Christ as better than all the wealth of Egypt. He's not afraid of it at all. He wants it because it's him. It's what he's undergoing as God's anointed one, chosen to go back to Egypt and endure all of that for the sake of the future, right? Because he's looking toward the reward. That's the future. He's not thinking about the present. That's the whole point. The whole point is he's regarding being insulted as God's anointed one better. It's more important to him to have that than all these treasures and wealth.